Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. The Premier League is fast approaching, and so to get you ready, here is one player from every Premier League club you need to look out for. For Brentford, Ivan Toney gets nearly all of the plaudits, but do you know who doesn't get enough? Bryan Mbeumo. And at 24 years of age, I think he's really going to start to mature in the Premier League this season. Brentford seriously missed him when he was injured for them for a little bit of time, and he has started 22 games out of the 25 that he played last season, gaining 9 goals, but also at the same time gaining 6 assists. Now, 15 goal contributions in 22 games started is not bad at all, and if we were to take a look at some of his statistics, we can see that he's actually pretty darn good. Progressive passes at 4.04 per 90, puts him in the 93rd percentile against players in Europe's top 5 leagues in his position. He's obviously a forward. 3.4 progressive carries per 90. He can also play as a winger, but I've put him as a forward, and these progressive carries as a striker just gets you that little bit higher up the pitch. He's very good at taking shots. Yes, he's underperforming his XG just to a certain amount, but he also drives down this right-hand side, and he can be seen playing as an out-and-out winger sometimes, but I think his best attributes are seen further up the pitch and a little bit more centrally. We've seen him drive a little bit further forwards to enable some of his teammates to be able to get on the ball as well. Creatively, he's very good. He works extremely hard for the team, and he will be yet another brilliant asset for Brentford going forwards. And for me, he's definitely one to watch. Ange Postecoglou's Tottenham Hotspur plays some of the most attractive, entertaining football in the Premier League. So why have I chosen Archie Gray, a midfielder, essentially defender in certain circumstances, as my one to watch? Well, I think he is absolute quality. The way that he's able to read the game is beyond his years, and he's very, very young at 18 years of age. I just think he's absolutely sensational. And while the metrics don't necessarily back up what I'm saying, because he played as a right back for most of the season for Leeds United, he normally applies his trade as a centre midfielder, but we've also seen Ange Postecoglou utilise him as a left back in pre-season. We've also seen him utilised as a centre back, and what this tells me is his versatility. He's able to play a multitude, and I do mean a multitude of positions. Of course, I mentioned the right back. He played 40 times for Leeds United. He didn't manage to get a goal, but he did manage to get a couple of assists, which is pretty good. Again, remember, 18 years of age, 17 years of age. He's playing a number of matches. He managed to get 11 clean sheets with his Leeds teammates. He is just sensational for me. 57% of his successful dribbles, 55% of his total duels won, 57% of his ground duels won. He's really, really good. And like I said, although I don't have the metrics or the underlying metrics to be able to state why I think he's so good, just watch him, please. I think he's sensational. He's wise beyond his years. He's got a number of amount of successful take-ons per 90, 1.08. Now, for a player who is essentially playing at right back for the most of the time, it's really good. Pass completion rate for an 18-year-old, 82% is unbelievable. Guys, watch this kid. He is going to be sensational, and I think he's going to take the Premier League by storm. He's one of my picks for Young Player of the Year, or my predictions for Young Player of the Year. I really think he's that good. So Archie Gray is definitely one to watch. For Aston Villa, I'm going to go for Morgan Rogers. Really impressive towards the back end of last season. Obviously, he moved midway through the season from Middlesbrough to Aston Villa. 22 years of age, but he's a mature 22. He's composed on the ball, and his dribbling is something that I think could really propel Aston Villa that little bit further forwards. If we take a look at his heat map, he's actually been everywhere on the pitch almost, drifting over to that left-hand side for the most part. But next season, I can see him moving a little bit more centrally. That's what we've seen from his pre-season games. His close control is pretty amazing, and his ability to beat a player is really impressive as well. If we were to look at his statistics, he's actually got 2.4 successful take-ons per 90. That's really, really good. And of course, he's still got that defensive work rate that we know Unai Emery wants. In the time he's had with Aston Villa, 8 starts, but he's got 3 goals. Having from an XG of 1.35 and also a goal conversion rate of 27%. Now, for a winger slash attacking midfielder attacker, that's really, really impressive. I think Morgan Rogers is going to do big things next year, given a more central role and given more license to play a little bit more football. His ability on the ball is pretty fantastic, and as I said, he's a composed, cool head as well. Watch out for him for Aston Villa. Things in the Premier League, I believe, are going to be a little bit tough for Leicester, but if there is ever a positive to take, it's the loan that Fatawu had from Sporting Club de Portugal to Leicester City, so much so that Leicester managed to complete that transfer for 17 million euros. And when we actually take a look at what he can offer, it's actually quite a lot. 20 years of age, the Ghanaian international is pretty rapid, and he's very good at driving with the ball. In the Championship, he really was very, very dynamic, driving towards the box, able to get into the penalty area. And of course, without Enzo Maresca, Leicester are going to have some teething troubles. They're going to have some problems. But with Steve Cooper, I believe that the way he utilises his forwards is going to be really interesting. Driving down that right-hand side, I can see him making a massive, massive impact. For Leicester last season, he had 6 goals, but that's not where the impressive stuff comes, even though he had 4.72 goal expectancy, so he's overperforming his XG. What's actually really impressive are his assists. 13 assists from last season. Remember, he's only 20 years old and he was 19 last season, so he's actually got quite a bit about him. Like I said, he's really quick, really dynamic, and he has 4.61 progressive carries, 2.88 successful take-ons, able to pick up the ball and drive with it. Tackles as well, 1.95 per 90, really good for a winger as well. Blocks, clearances, he's willing to do the defensive part for the team, but also drive forwards, and I think for Leicester to be able to get pressure off of themselves, that's going to be really, really important. I'm really interested to see what Steve Cooper does with Fatawu, because I think he can have a massive, massive impact. And for me, he is Leicester's one to watch. I think Nottingham Forest are going to struggle a little bit next season, and I think they're going to be put under quite a bit of pressure, and it's in that pressure that they're going to need some outlets. Enter Callum Hudson-Odoi for me. While he's already had a pretty decent campaign with Nottingham Forest last season, I can see him taking himself to another level. At 23 years of age, he's ready to make that next step and ready to really take the onus upon himself to be able to go forwards. There was a reason why Bayern Munich were willing to pay 50+ million for Callum Hudson-Odoi when he was at Chelsea. He's shown promise, he's shown skill, and I think it's that promise and skill that's going to come to the forefront even more so next season. We can see he really likes to hug this left-hand side, but he drives infield, and it's actually that real cut inside that I think actually dummies quite a lot of players. Even if they want to show him onto the outside, he's able to drift infield, and it's through that he managed to get 8 goals last season out of 20 starts. That's not bad at all, giving him a goal conversion rate of 21%. Can't quite see that, but 21%. And then really, when we take a look at some of his underlying metrics, only 1 assist, yes, but he actually managed to get 61% completion rate on his dribbles. And of course, we can take a look at some of his statistics as well. And 5.39 progressive carries per 90 puts him in the 87th percentile in Europe's top 5 leagues against attacking midfielders or wingers, and that's just really, really good. I think he's got nearly everything to be able to allow himself to progress forwards and really take his game as a Nottingham Forest player to the next level, and I think they're really going to need him. I do think they're going to be under quite a bit of pressure, and it's going to be through his quality I think they might get out of quite a bit of trouble. Gary O'Neill had a pretty brilliant season with Wolverhampton Wanderers last year, but if there was ever going to be a problem, it was the lack of squad depth when it came to attacking forward positions. Enter Rodrigo Gomes, a player that they've just signed from Braga in the Portuguese league. Now, he's very young, he's only 21 years of age, and I do think it's going to take some time for him to adapt. But in the Portuguese league, I actually thought he was really, really impressive. Utilising this right-hand side and left-hand side, he was able to drift infield and really make a proper name for himself. 7 goals and 7 assists from the time that he spent in the Portuguese league last year. I thought he did really, really well. Like I said, 7 assists there. He actually had a goal conversion rate of 14%, which actually isn't too high, but he's young. He's going to be really dynamic, really impressive. He can play centrally as well if you need him to. I think he could be a really exciting asset for Wolverhampton Wanderers. And if we were to take a look at some of his statistics from the Portuguese league, 3.42 progressive carries, something that I think Wolves have become quite synonymous with. The ability to pick up the ball and drive when you think of Cunha, when you think of Joao Gomes taking the ball, when you think of Semedo driving forwards, all of these players that are able to carry the ball. Pedro Neto, of course. Players that are able to take the ball and drive with it. Successful take-ons of 1.03 is quite good as well. Defensively, he's quite good. He can play as a right back as well, I believe. He can play on both sides, right back and left back. He's versatile. And it's in that versatility that I think Wolves are going to have an absolute gem on their hands. Rodrigo Gomes might not get all of the game time, but he will get some. And in that some, I think he's going to impress. So he is one to watch. For Arsenal, it's one of their new boys. Riccardo Calafiori, 22 years of age, the Italian international, has really impressed when playing in Serie A. And if we were to take a look at his heat map, I mean, this is a centre-back / left-back. Look at the space that he's in covering. And then look at how high he is on the pitch as well. The ability for him to drive forwards and then take up these central roles not only gives his side an extra bit of creativity a little bit further back, but we've also been able to see him go down that left-hand side, and it's gained him 2 goals and 5 assists. 2 goals, and then we have the 5 assists just down here. But it's some of his defensive metrics as well that really, really impress. Don't think that he's just able to go forwards. He's actually got a number of better metrics that allow him to progress forwards. 1.8 tackles per 90, 1.92 interceptions. But it's some of these statistics I think really separates him from the rest of the defensive pack in the Premier League. Progressive carries of 1.07. Remember, a centre-back. 1.07 per 90. Pass completion rate of 89% is always very nice when you're wanting to hold the ball like Arsenal do, and he's just an all-round pretty brilliant player, and I think Arsenal have got an absolute gem on their hands, and they're looking to really go for that Premier League title this year, and he could be the player to get them over the line. Ipswich did an unbelievable job of getting themselves promoted to the Premier League, and Amari Hutchinson was a massive part of that down that right hand side. I think he's going to be as important as ever after making his move to Ipswich permanent. The 20-year-old Jamaican player is pretty fantastic when it comes to dribbling past players, and for Ipswich I thought he was pretty phenomenal. Not only is he able to get the back a little bit more, but he drives forwards, he makes things positive, and in the Premier League where things are going to be a whole lot more difficult for Ipswich, I think you need a player to be able to pick up the ball and just drive at players. The ability to beat a man in the Premier League is second to none, and I think it's going to be really interesting to see how he fares. 10 goals in the Championship last season from a goal expectancy of 5.22, massively overperforming his XG, which means he's able to take chances, a goal conversion rate of 15%, and he's also managed to get 5 assists. So that's 15 goal contributions for a 20-year-old player down that right-hand side. It's really, really impressive. And if we were to take a look at some of his statistics, 2.21 tackles per 90 as well. Remember, this is in the Championship, so some of the statistics might be a little bit inflated, but 11.1 progressive passes received. They need to keep giving him the ball, Ipswich. That's absolutely vital and important. 5.99 progressive carries, 2.05 successful take-ons. Fantastic. He's really impressive. He's positive, he's proactive, and he's able to really drive at players. Something that I know fans really, really want to see. And for me, I think Amari Hutchinson is going to be an absolute joy to watch, and he's going to be extremely interesting to see how he performs. He is my Ipswich one to watch. Liverpool are going through quite a lot of change right now with a whole new manager, and it's actually Harvey Elliott, who I believe is going to come to the forefront of that new manager's system. It was really refreshing to hear Arne Slot talk about Harvey Elliott being that 10 and being in that 10 role just ahead of the double midfield pivot. I think Elliott is going to have an absolutely wonderful season. If we were to take a look at what he did for Liverpool last year, he was really penned out onto that right hand side, and that was for a number of different reasons due to a Klopp system and a number of different factors. But the metrics that he managed to get from that really indicated a player that was ready to take that next step. 11 starts, but he actually managed to get 3 goals. A goal expectancy of 2.72, but he also managed to get 6 assists. Now, that's 9 goal contributions out of 11 starts. And I think that's really impressive, and it's something that Liverpool need to utilise, and it's actually something that Arne Slot is starting to do already in placing Harvey Elliott in that 10 role. Looking at some of his stats, we can see that he's got 7.86 progressive passes per 90, and that really fits into that 10 role that I think Arne Slot is going to give to him. Watch for Harvey Elliott to be a lot more central, and it's in this centralisation of his play that I think he's going to get a whole more goals and a lot more assists. 3.01 progressive carries as well. He's quick, he can drive with the ball, he's good with the ball at his feet. I think he's got everything to take his game to the next level, and he reminds me of a player that Arne Slot had in his Feyenoord team, and that is Stengs. I think he can be a really good addition, or Harvey Elliott's already there, but I think that his new role will transform the way Liverpool go forwards creatively. Fulham have made some pretty interesting, impressive signings, none more so than Emil Smith-Rowe from Arsenal. This is a deal for me that just made absolute sense. Fulham need a player to go forwards, they need someone to be able to hug the touchline. Willian is now moving on, and they need someone to be that little bit more attacking. 24 years old, I think Emil Smith-Rowe needed to leave Arsenal to be able to get out of that shadow. I don't think it was necessarily helping him, the pressure that he was under, to be able to perform week in, week out, and the fact that he was injured for such an extensive period just means I think he needed a little bit of a reset. Now, it's unfair to be able to look at some of his statistics over the last couple of years because he's obviously been massively injured, so we need to go back 2 years to really see what kind of a player we're getting. So, here we have Fulham's, or I should say Emil Smith-Rowe, who now plays for Fulham's heat map from the 21-22 season, when he really made that breakout name for himself, hugging that left-hand side, but also having the ability to play on the left-hand side, but also through the centre. It's this kind of versatility that I think would really help him, and he's also able to track back as well, as we can see here. In this season, he started 21 matches for Arsenal, played 33 times in total, and he actually got 10 goals. Now that's not bad at all. I think there is a player in there, and it's a player that needs to be given a little bit of love, a player that needs to be given a bit of medical help in certain situations, but a 25% goal conversion rate is something that I think Fulham can really work with. And whereas the expectations aren't necessarily too high, I think Emil Smith-Rowe can almost let himself breathe a little bit more and really come to the terms with the fact that he's a very good player and he just needs a little bit more game time. Keep him fit, and I think Fulham have an absolute gem on their hands. For Manchester United, it's got to be Joshua Zirkzee, but not for the reason that you think. I actually don't think that Manchester United's new striker is going to score too many goals, and you might think, well, that sounds a little bit crazy, but hear me out. The 23-year-old Dutch international is going to really join together Manchester United's attack, and I'll explain to you why I think that. So, if we were to take a look at his season heat map, if you notice something, while he does get himself into the penalty area quite a lot of times, it's actually outside of the penalty area that he managed to do most of his work. And this is really interesting for a couple of reasons. Number one, he's dropping a little bit deeper to allow his team to come forwards, but at the same time, he's also creative enough to be able to spin the ball round and utilise his fellow teammates in both channels. This is going to allow Manchester United to really spread their play and allow their wingers to really hug the touchlines, drifting inside once they receive those passes to be able to allow themselves to get towards the box. And it's through Joshua Zirkzee's rotation and his ability to drop a little bit deeper that's going to allow and facilitate all of this to happen. He played 32 matches for Bologna when he was there in Serie A last season, and he managed to get 11 goals from a goal expectancy of 9.01, so he's also clinical. But like I said, I'm not expecting him to get too many goals. Think of him as the pass before the pass. 4 assists as well is not too bad either. 13 goal contributions is nothing to shirk at, and when we take a look at some of his statistics, that really does back up what I'm saying, because he's got a good progressive passing rate of 2.81 per 90. That puts him in the 83rd percentile against forwards in Europe's top 5 leagues. 1.73 progressive carries as well. He can drive with the ball. 1.71 successful take-ons as well. So he's good with the ball at his feet. He's tricky. He likes to get past players and open up channels of space for other players. While he can score himself, he doesn't necessarily thrive on that. He thrives on setting other people up. He's also very good defensively as well for a forward, and I think he's going to be the glue, essentially, for this Manchester United side to really go forwards and make a difference. Joshua Zirkzee is one to watch. Brighton, for me, do some of the best business in the transfer window, and if it wasn't for Yankuba Minteh, I would be talking about Mats Vifa. He's one player to look out for, and that's a bonus one for you. But Yankuba Minteh, I think, is going to take the Premier League by storm. Brighton fans are going to be absolutely ecstatic with him. At only 20 years of age, he's really started to show himself in the Eredivisie for Feyenoord. It's in this that he was able to really drive at his opponents down this right-hand side, and he's such a nuisance when it comes to entering the penalty area. Look how often he enters the penalty area right here. He managed to start 17 times for Feyenoord, and he got 10 goals from a goal expectancy of 9.7, but he's just got nearly everything about him. 10 goals and 5 assists in one of his breakout seasons. He came from Newcastle. Newcastle loaned him over to Feyenoord, and I just think he's got pretty much everything. If we were to take a look at some of his statistics, this isn't against players in Europe's top 5 leagues, it's instead against the other 14, but some of the statistics are just silly. So you've got progressive carries at 7.85 per 90. You've got defensive attributes in 2.84 tackles. Not only is he willing to go forwards, but he can also go backwards. And then you've got successful take-ons of 3.65 per 90 as well. He's got nearly everything, and he scores a couple of goals. I think Brighton are going to be absolutely ecstatic with him, and he's going to really make his name in the Premier League for Brighton and Hove Albion. He's definitely one to watch. As for most of the promoted clubs, I really do fear for Southampton, and they're going to require goals if they're going to stay in the Premier League. Enter Adam Armstrong. Now, Adam Armstrong is a really interesting one because he did get relegated with Southampton when they previously were in the Premier League. 27 years of age, and he's starting to gain some experience, and he's also got a bucket load of championship goals under his belt. Here we can see that he's pretty much everywhere in this top half, really attacking a number of different areas. He's willing to run channels. He's willing to get himself into the penalty area. His positioning is very, very good. Started 44 games, played every single match for Southampton in the Championship last season, and he got 21 goals. That's not bad at all from a goal expectancy of 22.19, so he's underperforming that somewhat, and he also managed to get 13 assists. So that is pretty good. That's 34 goal contributions in the time that he played. But the question remains, is he a championship wonder, or can he actually do it in the Premier League? And that is why I think he's so interesting to really look at. Looking at his underlying metrics, he's got a number of different things. Of course, pass completion is pretty good. His goal statistics are pretty good as well. Nearly a goal every game, or nearly a goal every 2 games, I should say. And his touches in the attacking penalty area are pretty good, 6.97. Progressive pass received. He's getting himself into good areas, but can he convert the chances in the highest level when it really matters most? And that's why I think Adam Armstrong is absolutely one to watch. And if Southampton are going to be staying up at all, if they're going to have any chance, he's going to need to put the goals in the back of the net. So we'll wait and see, shall we? The player that you absolutely must look out for Chelsea is Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall. Not exactly the most exciting signing, Chelsea fans have been saying, but he will make the difference. In this Enzo Maresca-based possession-style system, Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall will be the absolute key pivotal point of it. The 25-year-old international has done a sensational job of being able to get Leicester promoted back to the Premier League, and it was through some sensational performances in that Enzo Maresca system that allowed him to do so. He normally operates as a centre midfielder, but he normally finds himself progressing a whole lot further forwards, and this is down to the rotational system that Enzo Maresca does, inverting one of the fullbacks to then come into midfield. This gives Dewsbury-Hall a license to be able to go forwards. I mean, look at how many times he enters the penalty area, and this is seen in his statistics. He played 44 games, started 41 of those, but he scored 12 goals. Remember, this is a centre midfielder. But as well as those 12 goals, he actually got 14 assists. Now that's 26 goal contributions from centre midfield. That's not bad at all. And if he's able to replicate some of those skills that he had as a Leicester player, I think Chelsea have got a bit of a gem on their hands. Having a look at some of his statistics, he's pretty fantastic. We have to remember that this was applied in the Championship, so a lot of caution needs to be taken, but 6.73 progressive passes per 90 is very good. as is 3.91 progressive carries. And look at this, 5 shot creating actions per 90 as well. Not only is he able to be a little bit more industrious, but he's also able to be a bit more creative. He's very, very good. He takes on a player as well, 1.46 per 90. He's got nearly everything. And if there is ever going to be a player that would understand Enzo Maresca's system for Chelsea, it will be him. So if Chelsea start off really well towards the start of the season, I reckon it'll be down a lot to Kiernan Dewsbury Hall. West Ham United are doing a lot of really exciting things in the transfer market, but it's actually one player that they've already got that I think is your one to watch for next season. Mohamed Kudus has now had a full year under his belt in the Premier League, and I think he's now ready to take the league by storm. He's a quality player that I think everyone can see, and he's highly sought after by the likes of Liverpool, by the likes of Chelsea, and we know that he is just so good when driving towards players. His positioning is very good. He can play on the left-hand side and the right-hand side, in particular on this right-hand side, drifting infield. And he actually managed to get a number of goals and assists last season. He managed to get 8 goals from his 27 starts last season, managed to get a number of minutes under his belt, but also at the same time, he managed to get 6 assists. From an expectancy of 3.67, the goals were from an expectancy of 5.16, so he's taking his chances. That's 14 goal contributions for a player who's just arrived in the Premier League. I think he's quality. He's quick, pacey, he's creative, he understands how just to play proper positions. 62% successful dribbles, 3.8 per 90, 8.5 total duels won, 53% of those won as well. He's just got nearly everything. I think he's absolutely sensational. He's just a number of successful take-ons in the 98th percentile against midfielders in his position in Europe's top 5 leagues, but at the same time, he can do the defensive work as well. 2.44, and I think he's going to be a player that Julian Lopetegui is really going to vibe with. I don't like that word, but I really do think he's going to like him. So, Mohamed Kudus is one to watch for the Premier League season. We normally look at attacking players, but in Everton's case, I think the signing of Jake O'Brien is actually a pretty brilliant one. 23 years of age, and he is signed from Lyon. And it's his impact that he's had on this Lyon side that I think has really made a name for himself. 27 games played, 27 game starts, but he's got 4 goals. He's a centre-back. Very interesting. 3.57 XG as well. He's very good at winning aerial duels, an actual goal conversion rate of 22%, which is pretty ridiculous when you think about it. But he also has 2 assists. Now that's 6 goal contributions from a 23-year-old centre-back. Not bad at all. And defensively, he's pretty good as well. 61% of his total duels won, 58% ground, and 64% aerial. Now, this is something you really need to pay attention to. 1.6 aerial duels won per 90. Now, when we think about Sean Dyche sides being really physical, really dominating, it's really, really impressive. And when we look at actually some of his attacking statistics, this is rather ridiculous. Remember, he's a centre-back. He's in the 96th percentile for goals in Europe's top 5 leagues against centre-backs. Pass completion rate is very good as well. I think that's something that Everton has struggled with to a certain point, pass completion and making sure they keep possession. But really, when you think about the height that Everton have with the Jared Branthwaite, with the crosses they can have into the box from a O'Neill, I think that really signing Jake O'Brien could be the game changer defensively that Everton need. Everton had one of the best defensive records in the Premier League last year anyway, and he's only going to make it a little bit better. Only this time, they're a bit better going forwards. I think he is one to watch. Dango Ouattara is a player that I think Bournemouth can really rely on next year. 22 years of age, he was pretty fantastic from Bournemouth, but not for the reason you'd think, being a winger. He's actually very, very good defensively. In fact, he actually played at left back 6 times for Bournemouth last season, but he can also operate on the left-hand side and the right-hand side. The ability to use both flanks is very important in today's modern game, and we know that he's also very quick, very pacey, good at driving with the ball. He only started 12 times for Bournemouth last season, but watch for that stat to go up quite a bit. I think he's really reliable, very, very good. And if we were to take a look at some of his statistics, we can see here that his stats are off of the charts based on 1,229 minutes, so not necessarily the largest pool to pick from, but really 3.3 tackles per 90, 1.6 interceptions per 90. This is against wingers as well. He's so impressive from a defensive point of view, but going forwards I think is where his game is going to be improved. Under Andoni Iraola, I think the utilization of Dango Ouattara is going to be that little bit better. 2 assists last season, 1 goal. I think he's got it all in him to be able to progress on and go forwards. At 22 years of age, he's the perfect age to be able to take the Premier League by storm, and I think he's going to have a massive impact for Bournemouth. For Man City is actually a player that they have only just signed in Savinho that is really going to catch the eye for me next season. At only 20 years of age, he's already had a standout campaign with Girona, and it's actually during this that I think he would be a fantastic addition, and I realise he'd be a fantastic addition to this Manchester City side. His ability to really hold that left-hand side, drive towards the penalty area, but also occupy the right-hand side is really impressive. And in that season with Girona, he actually managed 9 goals from a goal expectancy of 6.06, giving him a goal conversion rate of 20%, missing 5 big chances as well, so he actually could have gotten a few more goals. He managed 10 assists as well in La Liga last year for Girona, who had a fantastic campaign. That's 19 goals and assists from a 20-year-old player who was only just broken on. And in this Pep Guardiola Manchester City side, I can only see him getting better with more possession, more ability to run at players, and he's just going to be pretty sensational, I think. 5.47 progressive carries, 3.15 successful take-ons, and when you think about Manchester City and the way that they're able to just continuously give their creative players license and ability to go forwards with the possession that they have, I think he's going to be absolutely devastating. It might take him a little bit of time to adapt to the Premier League, but I firmly think he will do. He's very quick, very good with the ball at his feet, and he's going to be very comfortable in this Manchester City setup. It's a wonder how Man City managed to get him for only £20 million. A bargain. It was only in the January transfer window of last year that Adam Wharton was able to come into this Crystal Palace setup and really start to make a name for himself. Having come in the January transfer window, he actually managed to have 15 starts and 16 games played, really occupying a load of this football pitch, playing as a centre defensive midfielder and as a centre mid. And while he doesn't have too many creation or attacking statistics, it's some of the defensive work that I think has been really impressive from him. So 4.9 total duels won per 90, 54% of them being completed, 57% ground duels completed, and of course 0.5 aerial duels won. Now that's not necessarily the greatest thing, but when you put into a whole package of him being a 20-year-old centre defensive midfielder with the calmness and presence of mind, and also the ability for him to win duels, 3.3 tackles per 90, and also progress the ball forwards, 5.48, he can only get better, and I think he'll be an absolutely pivotal part of this Crystal Palace midfield going forwards. Watch him to be able to be part of this really exciting new look Oliver Glasner Crystal Palace side. Adam Wharton is one to watch. For Newcastle United, I've actually gone for a defender. I think Valentino Livramento is actually going to be the surprise package for Newcastle next season. And this is with the view towards Kieran Trippier. While I really like Trippier, he is 33 years of age, and he is going to start to feel the running in his legs. And that's where Livramento comes in for me, because I think Livramento has all of the hallmarks of being a standout player for Newcastle for so many years to come. You look at the fact that he's able to play both left back and right back while also drifting in field a little bit. I think he's got everything. Yes, he only played 12 or only started 12 times last season. He played 26 times entirely for Newcastle. He only got 1 goal, but goals isn't really where it's meant to happen. He didn't get any assists either, but his defensive metrics for me are absolutely crazy. 0.7 successful dribbles won, but he won 68% of those. That's crazy. 63% of his total duels won, 63% of his ground duels won, and he even won 60% of his aerial duels. He's got the makings of everything, and I think creatively he can go forwards and be that little bit better. If we actually take a look at his underlying metrics, he's got 1.08 successful take-ons. Now for a fullback, that's pretty good. 2.9 progressive carries. Again, if you're carrying the ball as a fullback 2.9 times per game passed, or for an extended period of time, that helps your team to no end. 4.38 progressive passes. He's creative. He creates 2.27 shot creating actions per 90, puts him in the 60th percentile. I think he's got a way to go, and that's not me slighting him at all. I actually think he's of a really good level. It's actually the amount of expectancy I think should be on him. For 1.48 interceptions as well. Defensively, he's very good. I think he's ready to take that next step, and that next step will be with Newcastle. At only 21 years of age, he's pacey, he's strong, he's quick, he's got all the attributes like I said, and I can see him having a breakout season for Newcastle United. And there you have it, guys. That is one player from every single Premier League club that I think you need to look out for. But of course, let me know who you're keeping your eye on in the comment section below. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, I hope you learned something new, and I hope to see you in the next one. But until then, my friends, take care.